أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم. أما بعد, we started on Surah 71, Surah Nuh, Ayah 20. Sorry,
25.
Ayah 24. No, 25, sorry. Sorry, 25. 25. Okay.
Passage. My Lord, and Nasr. فلم يجدوا لهم من دون الله أنصارا. Because of their sins, they were drowned and put into the fire, and they found not for themselves besides Allah any helpers.
Okay, that is Ayah 25. So what he's saying here is that on the account of their sins, okay, Allah punished them. It was due to their sins. And part of their sins was the worship of all these gods. We mentioned yesterday Wad, Sawa, Yaguth, Ya'uk, and Nasar. Now, what is interesting here is that the Prophet ﷺ, in a hadith mentioned in Bukhari, okay, there's a hadith in Bukhari mentioning how people began to worship idols. What was the process that caused people to worship idols? And what is interesting here, see if I find it, which part in Bukhari, so I could give you the reference. Right? Let me get the reference. Bukhari. Come on, I just had it here. Okay, so in Bukhari, the hadith is 4920. Okay, the hadith is 4920. And it is narrated by Ibn Abbas. He said that all the idols which were worshipped by the people of Noah were worshipped by the Arabs. Now, the Orientalists and those detractors against Islam, they say it is an acronism, because what they are saying is that the Prophet ﷺ took the idols that the people worship and projected back on Noah. Okay? So it become anachronistic, right? Meaning out of date and out of time. Now, this issue, right? What happened is that there was a businessman who had traveled to Jerusalem before the Prophet, about 150 years before the Prophet. And what he did, he went to the Amalek, those strong people, and there was a dominant civilization in the Middle East at the time. And he admired these people, and they used to worship many gods. So he asked them, how come you all get so strong and thing? And he said, well, we worship these gods. Any problem we have, we go to these gods. So he said, can I have one to take back? So I think his name was Labid. He took it back to the Kaaba in Mecca, and he installed it. And that was Hubal. That was one of the gods that the Arabs used to worship is really Baal. That you read in the Bible, who Baal means the Baal or the Lord. So it was one of the gods they worship. Now, what happened is that it is reported that he got an inspiration from Shaitan to bring back the gods of Noah. So when the Prophet ﷺ came on the scene, some of the tribes were worshiping the gods of Noah. Allah mentioned it in the Quran that these gods are really from the time of Noah. Okay, so some of the gods that the people Arabs were worshiping, the Arabs were worshipped also by the people of Noah. As for the idol Wad, it was worshipped by the tribe of Kalb at a place called Daumat al-Jandal. Suwa was the idol of the tribe of Hudayl. Yaguth was worshipped by the tribe of Murad, and then by Bani Ghutaif at Al-Jurf near Sabah. Ya'uq was the idol of Hamdan, and Nasser was the idol of Himyar, the branch of the Al-Kala, that is in Yemen. The names, what is said is that the actual names of these gods were actually people. Okay? Or actually people, like Shango was a man, was a king, right? And that what they are saying is that the idols were named belonging to people. But these people were very righteous and pious. And when they die, okay, people erected statues in remembrance of them. Okay, and then as time passed by, Shaitan inspired them to worship these idols that represent these people. And they end up, after a time, they used to sit around the idol and call people to it. So they end up forming a religion around it, and they end up forming places of worship around these various idols. And they develop their worship cult. And then after a time, people forgot who these people were, and they continue worshiping them. And they argue that this is what our forefathers used to worship, not knowing the source of why this is so, how it is so, and what were the reason that it became that way. Okay? Now, as Muslims, we tend to not pay attention to the activities of Shaitan, right? Shaitan, as was shown in the last time about the man who was trying to be good, and Shaitan whispering to him to somehow to be good, he had to blow up some people, right? And he got that waswas, that whispering. And Shaitan does that. Shaitan could whisper things into your heart. And I was telling you about the man who found the rocket, the gas, the fuel that he could use to put rocket in the sky. Okay, he said in his records, in his diary, that he was inspired by a jinn called Dajjal. And these things are real, and science and the occult has always been joined together. For example, the word pharmacy, okay, has to do with the occult. But now it is just purely medical. But before it was joined to the occult, all these things had the occultic association. Now, Gilad asked about the African religion. Now, the problem with African religion is that some people tend to present African religion as one thing. African religion is not one thing. Not all African tribes believe exactly in the same thing. They have some common things, and they have some uncommon things. Okay, for example, the the people in East Africa, they worship Wak, which is God, the creator, and they worship Wak, and they do not worship idols, but they worship some spirit, but they recognize Wak as the supreme authority. So there are some instances that they are similar, and some instances they differ. But as for us, seeing that we are mostly people who came from West Africa, so we're more involved in either the Yoruba or the Igbo worship, which is two similar worship, right? Now, they are similar. They are similar in the sense that they all believe in the one God called, Olorun, one God, or sometimes they call him Oludumare. And what happened is that they said the God got angry with people. He got disturbed by the behavior of people. And the God went away and created distance between himself and his creation. And in order to get to the creator, we have to go through intermediaries. Okay? Or righteous ancestors who became gods when they died. Now, this is why Christianity spread so fast in West Africa, because the Christians came saying that the only intermediary between God and man is Jesus Christ. So, and they see that these people in power, they have civilization, they're conquering. So people say, okay, this looks like the real powerful God. So they went and they joined Christianity. But it's the concept of Christ being an intermediary between people and God. And then they told the people that there's no way you can access the Creator except through Jesus. And they quote the New Testament that there's no way to the Father but by me. But the Christians deliberately misinterpret this verse, because Jesus, at the time, okay, when he was giving his dawah and calling people to Allah, there's no way the people at that time could access Allah, or follow Allah, or follow the commandments except through Jesus. When I say through Jesus, by him, his teachings, like it come like Umar came with the Torah, okay, and the Prophet said, if Moses was alive, he will have followed him. Moses will have followed the Prophet Muhammad. So it means that the Prophet on set is the Prophet you're supposed to follow. Okay, so you can't go wrong to somebody else, another prophet or another being. So that's what he meant. It don't mean that you have to worship him to get to God. It means that he was on the set. So anything in regards to the Creator, you have to check him, because he was the last prophet to Bani Israel. Now, there are many examples that is similar. We find similar with the gods of the people of Noah and some tribes in Africa in terms of the attributes. Okay, either attributes of like love, power, strength, money, or they are associated with some thing in the creation like rivers, mountains, trees, okay, animals. So, and that what is similar also, that people seek these gods out to solve problems, to make offerings, to make prayers, to give thanks, and they serve as an intermediary between the people and the Creator. So these are the similarities. For example, Olorun, which is the deity, the one God, is also called Oludumare. He's the supreme creator. The Igbos, they call him Chiku. Ochukwu, right? And he's the source of existence, the ultimate authority, right? Among the Orisha, they don't worship Olodumare at all. I asked them, how do you worship Olodumare? They have no worship for Olodumare. But they have worship for the intermediaries to speak to Olodumare. Okay, that's the problem. And this is not unique. It's the same thing the Arabs did, right? They believe in Allah, but they never used to go straight to Allah. They used to go through the idols, like Hubal, or they go through what they call the daughters of Allah. Okay, so it's the same thing. So when people say that, we have left our ancestral religion. Our ancestral religion is not unique. It's the same thing all over the world. The same thing you find among the Chinese, the Mongolians. Name a people and it have the same concept. They believe in one God, but he's inaccessible. Okay, even the Egyptians, they say the creator is unknown. He's hidden. And you access him through the Netarus, the empowered spirits that operate in the universe. And these spirits are really servants of God. Okay, like the angels. Okay, so we have all these similar things, but differences in terms. Okay, and then we have Obatala. He represents purity, wisdom, peace, and creativity. Those who worship Obatala among the Orisha, they wear white. And they don't drink alcohol and stuff like that. So a lot of the Orisha people, when they met Muslims, they used to say Muslims are the children of Obatala because they wear white and they don't drink and stuff like that. Right? Now some of these jinns, remember, have rules, right? You wear a certain color on a certain day, certain food you can't eat, certain days you have to sacrifice. Okay, these jinns are they make up their own systems, just like men. Some men are their own system. Okay, the qualities of Obatala is like patience, justice, and the shaping of human beings. Right? In Egyptian religion, he was called Khunum. And they show you the picture of Khunum on a potter's wheel. You know the potter's wheel where they used to make pots and cups with? And he was on the potter's wheel using mud and forming man. Okay, so they gave the creation of man to another deity called Obatala. Right? And they teach calmness, ethical living, and resolving conflict peacefully. And that's one of the things that the Muslims used to do in Africa when they came in. Right? This thing about Muslims entering Africa and just conquering everybody is not true. A lot of the people who enter Africa was very spiritual men. A lot of Sufis and merchants is who convert the majority of people in Africa. Right? And a lot of the Sufis and the merchants were scholars. Okay, they were not just Sufis, they were scholars, and they were merchants, and even the merchants, okay, were scholars. There's among the Madinka people, there's a group of them called the Jahanke. They are scholars, but they are traders. And wherever they go, they establish a little mosque and a class, and people come and teach, and they taught them religion, and people converted to Islam. Okay, so I'm just giving you some of the one or two of the gods. You have Shango, who we know about. His favorite color is red, and is about thunder, lightning, fire, and war. Okay, power, courage, passion, and leadership. Because he has a double axe, a double-headed axe. Okay, he's about balance, mercy, strength in adversity, and warns against arrogance. Then you have Oshun, concerned with love, beauty, sensuality, prosperity. Her color is gold, honey, mirrors, and rivers. You know, it is a very feminine god. And what he thinks about Orisha, the the what they call the Ori, that which lands on your head, the spirit, the satyrs ride you on your head, right? Okay, and a man could have a female spirit. Okay, for example, let me say Oshun dominate a man, and when Oshun dominate a man, he will exhibit feminine qualities. He will be like a gay, right? That's why I used to find why there are so much gay people in the Orisha religion, right? It depends on the spirit. Some women have male spirit, and they move like man. Okay, so these spirits go on your head, and they conquer you, and they ride you. Then you have Ogun, the god of war, technology, labor. Okay, his qualities is perseverance, determination. Okay, his colors are black and green. You know, he's concerned with hard work, you know, ingenuity, overcoming obstacles, and you know. So these are just some of the deities that they have. There's a lot of them. So what has happened is that the people at the time of Noah, they worship these gods, and these gods came down to us in different forms. That's why in every tribe in the world, there's a story of a flood. Even among the Apaches and the American Indians, they say when the flood came, they went down in the ground. And then they came up after. You know, everybody has a flood story, you know, and different. Some of them say how much people went on the boat. Even the Egyptians have a picture of 8 people in a boat, you know, which is about the same amount of people, Noah and his sons and their wives. Okay, so if all over the world had a flood story, it means that when mankind spread out after the flood, they carry with them information. Okay, they carry with them information from the civilization that were destroyed before us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that on account of their sins, okay, mimma khotoyahum, okay, because of their sins, or khotiyaihim, okay, because of their sins, they were drowned, and they were made to enter the fire, which means fire, the hellfire was written for them. And they did not find anyone, okay, to help them except Allah. You know, they found none to help them beside God. So all these gods they were worshipping, they could not help when they were faced with Allah's wrath and punishment. Now that brings us to a very important question. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that on account of their sins. So what sins did their children do? And by all accounts, we know the children perished with their parents in the destruction of the world at the time. Right? Now, the Prophet Muhammad said that when they were destroyed as one people. Men, animals, children, everybody. Right? But Allah, although they were destroyed along with their parents, Allah did not prescribe a punishment for them. Right? And on the day of resurrection, they will be raised according to that status, as people were not subjected to any disobedience to Allah. Okay? Just like the Prophet ﷺ said that in the last day there will be an army coming to attack Medina. And this army will be an army of disbelievers. And in the army, in those days, there were what we call camp followers. There were people who followed the army. You know, they were women selling their bodies, or selling items, you know, traders, merchants. They were not involved in oppressing or fighting anybody. They were just offering services to the army. And the prophet said that the earth will swallow all of them, everybody. And they asked him, well, what about the people who were just camp followers, you know? You see, Allah going to raise them according to their intentions. Okay, the similar thing that will happen to the people of the children of Noah, the children of the people of Noah, and any civilization that get destroyed, and the children, the innocent children, they are bara, they are innocent, the punishment will not visit them, but they will perish. And part of the children perishing is a punishment for the parents who disbelieve also. That's part of the punishment. Okay? That you create so much fitna. Okay? And Allah just destroy everybody. Okay? But He will not visit any further punishment amongst the children. So, and this is the issue, and you hear a lot of atheists saying that, you know, well, you know, it have a tsunami and everybody die. Why God can go and do only save the children? And, you know, but if you look at life, if something happened, let me say about earthquake. You can't have earthquake with just the parents. The earthquake will just destroy everything. And whoever dead, and that's it. Right? So it's the way things are. Okay, it don't mean that Allah is an oppressor. Okay, because He it is who give life and death in the first place. But they can get that concept in their mind, you know, that, you know, because somebody die young is a sort of punishment. You know, everybody don't die at the same time. Some die young, some die early age, some die middle, some die in between, you know. So who's to say when is the best time to die? You understand? And some people can't wait to die. They drink poison, or they kill themselves, or do something else. Okay? So this is what Allah says, that on account of their disobedience, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished them. Okay? They were punished. And their animals and their children also shared in that punishment. Okay? Let's go.
And they found not for themselves besides Allah any helpers.
وقال نوح رب لا تذر على الأرض من الكافرين ديارا.
And Noah said, My Lord, do not leave upon the earth from among the disbelievers an inhabitant.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, when this happened, Noah made a dua. He said, My Lord, don't leave a single one of the disbelievers on earth. Right? And actually, he said, do not leave a single house, a diyar, a single place. You know, destroy everything. Right? And because you remember, Noah didn't preach for one day, preach for many years. Some people say hundreds of years he was calling these people. Right? So when the punishment came, it was final. Okay, and Noah prayed, and Allah said, He said, do not leave from among those who are disbelievers. Okay, a dayar, you know, a place, you know, send the punishment on the places, on the houses, everything, every one of them. It's a very terrible thing.
Indeed, if you leave them, they will mislead your servants, and not beget except every wicked one and confirmed disbeliever.
So Noah said that, well, like, if you leave these people, they will mislead your servants, the righteous. This is how wicked these people were. And more than that, they will breed nothing but wicked disbelievers. He said that, if you leave these people, they will just breed disbelievers. Okay? So here we are seeing the importance of asking Allah to give you good parents and give you good children, and because you will enter in the Jannah as families if your families make it. Okay? And so these are some of the things that, as being believers, our children will benefit. Being disbelievers, our children will benefit in a wrong way from our actions. Okay? So there's a connection, between the belief of the parents and how it affects the children. Okay? And that is why some children who have righteous parents and they disobey these parents, Allah deal with them very serious because they were shown proper examples. Okay, so if we get good children, we should thank Allah, because Imam Malik said that the iman do not run in the blood. Okay, iman does not run in the blood. So a righteous person could have an unrighteous child. Okay, but it's detrimental for that child because especially the parents was righteous. Okay, and an unrighteous person can have a righteous son. Okay, so these things, can have a devastating effect on us.
رب اغفر لي ولوالدي ولمن دخل بيتي مؤمنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات ولا تزد الظالمين إلا تبارا.
Okay, and then Noah proceeded to pray. Said, "My Lord, forgive me, my parents, those who enter my house as believers." And it is said also those who enter the house and the places of worship, and all believing men and women. These are very good dua to make. But let the wrongdoers sink only deeper into destruction and ruin. So be very careful too if you're making this dua, because if you live in like a disbeliever, you're cursing yourself. Because he said, "My Lord, forgive me, my parents, and those who enter my house as believers, and all believing men and women. But let the wrongdoers sink only into despair and utter ruin and destruction." So these kind of duas, you have to be living straight, because what happens is that you're making a powerful dua, okay, against your own self, right? And that is something that is very serious. Duas are serious. Okay, duas are very, very serious. Now, that is the end of Surah Noah. Now, we go to Surah Jinn. Now, the word jinn, okay, comes from the Arabic word jim nun nun, and it means to be hidden. The word Jannah and jinn comes from the same word. The word Jannah and jinn comes from the same word. And the word, it refers to among the creation, Allah created mankind, us, before he created the angels. Sorry, angel, malaik. An angel is not a proper word, is not a proper description of these people, of that species. Because an angel is a Greek word that just means Rasul. Angel just means a messenger. And some angels are messengers, Allah says in the Quran. Okay, but it really means malaik, like someone that has power. Okay, so these angelic beings Allah created, they function as functionaries within Allah's kingdom. Okay, so they're responsible for this, for that, for the other things. And that is what the Egyptians call Neteru. You know, beings that, for example, they call the moisture that in the earth, they say that's a Neteru. It means that something Allah set up in his kingdom as divine, it comes from a divine source, so that is a Neteru. You know, the sun is a Neteru. You know, and all these different things. So one day the Prophet ﷺ went on a mission. He went out and he was with his companions, and they met a company of jinns. Okay, they met a company of jinns. So as Muslims, I have met people who do not believe in jinns. You know, they feel jinns is just what we call wise people or a different type of tribe or something like that. Right? And Allah mentioned them in the Quran. Okay, they are beings different from us, and they are made from smokeless fire. Okay, and we are made from what? Mud. Okay, and the angels are created from light. Okay. So these creatures, okay, these creatures, they exist among us, but they are in a different zone where we cannot see them. The angels are also in that zone, and we cannot see them also. But the angels, if they have to manifest in our zone, they take on the figure of a man or a woman, or Muslim men. They take on the figure of Muslim men, sorry. And the jinn, when they manifest in our area, in our zone, they sometimes manifest as animal or creatures. And a lot of times is really horrible creatures. Okay, but jinns exist, and they can be Muslims, Hindu, Christians, Jew, you know, all different type of belief. According to the Quran, they say they follow different paths. Okay, so don't be fooled if you see some kind of miraculous things happen by a jinn among Christians. It just be a Christian jinn giving you dawah to come to be a Christian. You know? And I suppose that is why it is reported in the New Testament that Jesus, according to that tradition, said that on the day of judgment, some people come to him and say, Lord, we heal in your name, and we perform miracles, and you know we did exorcism in your name. You say get away from me, I don't know you. Right? And these are the things that people look at to determine if something is true or not. You know, what we call miracles. And if these people were doing miracles, and Isa alayhi salam could tell them on the day of judgment, go away from me, I don't know you. Okay, so miracles are not all we make it out to be, as if that determines the truth, you know. And we know that.
You said Isa on the day of judgment.
According to the
Or that's a
Christian
mistake.
tradition. I say according to the Christian tradition. Right?
Oh, okay.
Because the New Testament narration, right? So these a lot of times these type of miracles, we don't know sometimes the source of it. You know, because one of the things about the Dajjal, he's going to raise people from the dead. And according to the hadith, the Prophet Islam said that it will be jinns impersonating these people. Okay? Impersonating your mother, your father, and he raised them as if he's raising these people. You know, so and that is how he will resemble the real Messiah. Because the real Messiah, Isa alayhi salam, we call Jesus, used to raise people from the dead, used to not only him, Ezekiel did it also, and do miracles. And one of the deception of the Dajjal, he will come and do these things too. But the Prophet say his miracles will be by the agencies of jinn. Okay? Jinn will be operating with him. Now this surah is the 72nd surah of the Quran. And it has 28 verses. This surah tells the story of a group of jinns who heard the Prophet Muhammad SAW reciting Al-Quran. Okay? And this happened when the Prophet Muhammad SAW was in Mecca. And it was revealed after Surah Araf and before Surah Yasin. And they heard the Prophet ﷺ reciting the Quran. And then they returned to their people to preach Islam. So they accepted Islam and they returned to the other jinns. Okay, now jinns have tribes and they have children, they have livestock, they have animals, they are just like us in that sense. You know? So that's why the people who do ruqya, you know, they try to refrain from killing jinns. Okay, they might imprison them, but they cannot refrain because jinns can take revenge. Okay, jinns can take revenge because they can go for their boys or go for their cousins and come back for you. All right, so that's why the people who deal with, you know, areas of the jinn, they avoid killing them. So the Prophet was traveling to a place. You know, in them times, the Arabs had what we call a fair. You know, like how we saw a fair a long time. And there was a fair of Ukaz. And he led the prayer at a place called Nakla. He prayed Fajr at Nakla. No, he went there to give, of course, he used to go to these places where there was a large group of people to call people to Islam. And while he was praying, a group of jinn passed and they stopped to listen to the Quran. Now these jinns were mushriks. They believe, they not believe in Allah, they believe in other gods. And upon hearing the Quran, okay, these jinns decide to accept Islam. Okay, they decided to accept Islam. And if you notice the discourse between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the jinns and the Prophet Islam, and what Allah tell us about them. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything Allah puts in the Quran, okay, there is a reason for it. and it is some way or the other connected with our lives. Okay? Whether we live 100 years in the past, or we live, or those who live 100 years into the future. And jinns is a reality that affects the life of people. And for example, people who suffer from similar to the word for jinn, it covers what covers, so the intellect of the person is covered, and therefore we say that person is mad. Okay, and the jinns, they can affect our lives. Some of them are shaitan. Not all jinns are shaitan. Okay, the shaitan is a quality that can be found among jinn and among mankind. Okay, there are shayateen among men and jinn. So being a shaitan is a quality. Okay, Iblis is the person's name, but Iblis is a jinn and also a shaitan. So he took on that quality. Shaitan now, that's why the Prophet ﷺ said that in the month of Ramadan, the shayateen, plural, are chained. Not Mr. Shaitan himself, Iblis. Because Allah will not chain Iblis. No, Allah will not imprison Iblis, because he gave Iblis respite until the day of judgment. And as Allah said, La tukhliful miyad, Allah does not break his promise. So if Allah told Iblis that he's going to leave him to do whatever he has to do until the day of judgment, okay, leave him to do whatever he has to do until the day of judgment, he will not come now and imprison him. But he imprisoned his workers, shayateen, right? Because shaitan can't be here, there, and everywhere, right? But his followers, right, are here, there, and everywhere. And he has set up his throne. Shaitan's throne is in the waters, on the sea. And shaitan, they go and they break up marriages, and those jinns that break up the marriages, the shaitan bring them close to him. So we are up against an active force that works against us. And a lot of us don't pay attention to these things. Okay, we are up against a force, right? And shaitan has recruited these jinns in order to prove that we as the children of Adam are not worthy. Because remember, he said, it's basically a jealousy, why Allah choose this man as a caliph on earth, why the sons of Adam are caliphs on earth, right? And he's out to prove something. And so we now are in a battle. And he said that he'll attack you from on top, below, and from all sides. Okay, so we are engaged in a spiritual battle, and sometimes we go through life unaware. Okay, and much just for the non-believers who have no access to this type of knowledge, things just happen to them and they don't know why. Okay, so it has nothing to do with civilization or modernity. right? Because even in this modern world, a lot of these countries and governments, okay, they are involved in worshiping the jinns. You know, they have human sacrifice. You know, every year you have children missing at certain times of the year. You know, and we look at these things as joke. You know, as if there's nothing going on. Okay, but there is something going on around us, and we are inheritors of our father Adam alayhi salam, and men and women. And when shaitan see us, okay, we represent somebody who he has a problem with. And I'm saying all these things for us to get in our minds that the jinns are just another creation, and they are not something spooky. There, you know, there is a reality about the jinns. And Allah says that in Jannah, there are women who neither jinn nor man has touched. Okay? Who neither jinn nor man has touched. So jinn can't touch. Okay? And in the Christian tradition, they call them succubus. Right? Now, when we were in prison, I know if she be telling only that. But when we was in prison, you know, we used to dream this Douglas woman. You know, she was in blue, real pretty woman. And then when we started to exchange dream, we realized everybody, where all the brothers where we were, was dreaming the same woman. So she had a field in that section, right? So the Christian call them succubus. You know, they have different names for them in different traditions. So they exist. Okay, they exist, and we, as Muslims, we have to be aware of them. Okay, we be aware of them, and some of them also are believers and Muslims. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said that when you eat, leave the bones for your brothers among the jinns. You know, some of we just buy the bones and suck out the marrow of the bone. You know, we ain't supposed to eat suckling because that's blood, right? Say, leave that for the jinn. Okay? Leave that for your brothers among the jinn. So they, in their own spiritual way, benefit from these things. They also benefit from energy, you know, like quarreling. Some people come with bad vibes. We call it vibes. Come with bad vibes. It's just that they have too much negative jinns around them. Okay, jinns. The sweet smell attract the angels. Okay, so negatives, dirty things attract the jinns. Okay, so I say all these things for us to be more mentally and spiritually aware, okay, of these things that can affect us. Okay, can affect us. And you know, I have known more than one woman who had a sexual experience with the jinns, the jinn. One of them was in Trinidad. She ended up taking Shahada when she was cured by, I think, Sheikh Body. And she became a Muslim. I think she's still a Muslim to today. She was the first person I heard when she told us exactly what happened. And I met a woman up here. She told me the same story as that girl I remember in Trinidad, you know. So, and I met another woman from Afghanistan. Okay, so, and another woman from Morocco too. Yeah, from my experience, you know. So these things, okay, And that's why when we have sexual intercourse, we say Bismillah. When we eat, we say Bismillah. Because we don't want shaitan eating with us, and we don't want shaitan enjoying our wives and our husbands with us. Okay, so this is how serious this matter is about the jinn. And the jinn is part of what we call the unseen. Okay? It's part of what we call the ghaib. Okay? We believe in the unseen. Okay? There are things that we cannot see, and that don't mean they don't exist. So as Muslims, we know that Solomon also controlled the jinns. Yes, Solomon controlled the jinns. It's a known fact. And up to today, we have the Masons. The people who are Masons. Okay? They have a fascination with Solomon. And fascination with controlling the forces. Yeah, my grandfather was a master mason, and he used to tell me these things, and they have a fascination with controlling the forces and building the temple, because they say Solomon used the jinns to build the temple. This is what they say, right? But also, what I'm aiming at is that some of these things that people consider as fairy tales are things that in our world, people who access those things are in control. Okay, among magistrates, they are Masons. Among the police, they are Masons. Among every sector of the society of importance, there are people who are Masons. And when another Masons come up in front of them, they could avoid punishment because they give them certain signs. Like one day, my grandfather had this big, like a treasure chest. It was big, it had legs, and he had all kind of books inside it. So one of my uncle got hold of one of the books with all the different Masonic signs, and he was downstairs doing them, and same time my grandfather coming up the road, I saw him. He gets some serious tap, but my grandfather said, nobody do ever go in there. So when he died, I was rushing down to read that box and see what kind of books I have in there. Before I reached, the lodge people came and took every single book. In fact, they took the whole chest and went with it. And so these things exist in our society. And the people who are in this, people who are in those sector societies, they are people who control the society. And there's one thing that happened. I don't know if you all ever hear, I don't know if you all hear about this too. During the 1990, right, when we were in the TV station, right, and at night we were sitting we was not really sitting lying down because shots was firing by the front door, and we was under siege at the time. And wallahi, I saw a white man coming, from not far from TTT. There's a lot somewhere up in the back there. This man, a white man in a white shirt and a black pants. And the man come walking down the road, and all them shots come walking on the road. And then when he reached by TTT, TTT have a glass door, right? He say, Abu Bak man, and then he keep walking. So I turn and say, well, you see that boy? You say, yeah, boy, who's that man, boy? Like that madman or what? Yeah, and I heard too that a lot of things happen also in the Red House, the Imam could tell you all about them, and how in the Red House there are certain Masonic symbols and occultic signs, so these things are not by guess. People don't rule by guess. Okay? So just as us, we too, when we are in power, if Muslims get in power, we have to access Allah through tahajjud, dhikr, and talk to the righteous people, and all these things. We have our own science, but we don't access it, and that is our problem. We don't access our sciences, which is very important. That if you read in the history, some imams, one of the caliphs, he had a dream that some people was trying to interfere with the body of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu. He ignored the dream, and then he had a dream 3 more times, I think, and then he went to Medina, and they caught some people who had rented a house close to the masjid, and they was digging underneath towards the masjid to interfere with the body of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu. These things are facts in history, so they say during the time of the Crusaders too, they had some Crusaders who pretend to be Muslims, and they try it. A number of times people try to get at the body of the Prophet Sallallahu. And the Turks, the Ottoman, end up creating I think they pour concrete, stone, and I think copper around the grave underneath the earth, so that nobody can come underneath and steal the body of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu. Okay, what they do with that? What somebody gonna do with that body? It's the same thing, if you look at Chief Crazy Horse, who fought the Americans, up to now they have his head, his skull, okay, in the Skull and Bones Lodge in one of the universities in America. They and even in Africa, when they're doing their necromancy and they occult things, this actual the head of a virgin. Sorry for them virgin in Africa. Everything is always going to kill 3 virgin, 4 virgin, or something like that. Right? And Brother Mukpin told me that, during the time, certain times when he was growing up, they couldn't go outside. Mother said this is the time when they'll be looking to headhunters, they call them, looking for people to sacrifice. So these things are part of our reality. Okay? Because, Allah says in the Quran that there are people who seek partners from among the jinns. Okay? There's people who partners with the jinns. Okay? So we can ask, okay, how come you could have a jinn and you go by an Obeah man and you remove the jinn? Because the Obeah men, them deal with what we call the Ifrit. There are different species of jinn. These Ifrits are very powerful jinns. Very, very powerful. So when your small jinn come, they just chase it. Just come just like us. You bring a bad boy, the Ifrit is bad boy jinn then, if you understand what I mean. And then in the Quran it says that there was a jinn who knew the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and was quick to bring the throne of Sheba in the twinkling of an eye. For you think the throne was there. Okay, and we know also of Harut and Marut, the angels who came, and the people learned magic from them. They learned things that was not beneficial for them, and the angels say, we are a test for you, because these things, what they were learning, okay, was good things, but it had in every good thing, just like a gun, you could shoot somebody with it, or you can hunt animals and feed your family. Okay, so the science is there, but people can use the left hand of the science, separate wife and children and create fitna. So all of these things is part of our deen, and we should be always aware of these things. So tomorrow we'll start officially. I just giving you a background on the jinns and the surah, and always think anything Allah reveal, it has some connection to our life, either now, later, or in the past. There's always a connection. Okay, there's always a connection. So we will speak about it. We'll go into the surah and see what we can get from it, and to see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to pay attention to. Any questions?
I have a couple, Maulana. When
You go
you
on.
mention the sciences in
Did?
the the sciences in the Islamic context,
Yeah.
you know that we are in an era where once you mention that, you have
Mm-hmm.
a group of Muslims who would pronounce takfir on you, and they would say, "What were you talking about? Isn't of Islam, and it's just the four codes and Ayatul Kursi, and that's it."
Well, those people, you know, we always have fanatics amongst us. We have extremist people, and there are people who deny the spiritual aspect of Islam. Okay, Islam has a spiritual aspect, right? It was called many names. In our times, they call it Sufism. It was also called Ihsan. It was also called Wara. You know, there are many names, right? But because remember, there's a spiritual aspect of being Muslim, you know, and that was said that in Africa, these spiritually endowed men, you know, they went into Africa and they met people worshiping jinns, you know, worshiping this big snake, and they killed the snake, and people became Muslim. I mean, these things are recorded in those countries, not no story, right? And up to today, there's still a tongue that worship snake, the python. And if you kill a python, you're in real trouble. You have to give it a proper burial like a man. Sometimes they marry you until they marry you to the python. All kind of things they just do. Anyway, yes, so you know, people like to call takfir, right? Now they say it's just the four codes and that's it. All right, okay. I have no argument against that. But remember, there was a companion who went out and somebody got stung by a scorpion and recited the Surah Fatiha. And then they offer him some goat, sheep, nothing was sheep, as a payment. But they didn't want to use it, and they disagreed. So they waited until they reached the Prophet Islam, and they told him. So he said, the Prophet said, well, who teach you that? You know, who taught you that? He said, my heart just inclined towards that, and I did it. So the Prophet said, okay, give me some of that, bring some of that animal, you know. So this is the source for taking payment for doing ruqyah, taking payment for treating people spiritually, and that, you know, you can find spiritual keys in the Quran itself, right? In the Quran itself, that didn't come from the mouth of the Prophet, because one of the qualities of the Quran is what? Ashifa, right? The one that cures. Okay, the one that cures. So Allah gave us a whole book that can cure, you know. And some of us, I saw people who have traveled. There's a certain dua you make from Surah Yasin. You know, when you meet judges and authorities, you ask for to place a bar in front of you and a bar behind you. Actually, that does always work. That worked for me plenty times. I know other people who do it and it worked for them too. So there's a lot of things that yeah, you know, there's a surah that you use to diagnose somebody if they have a jinn. And trust me, I was dealing with this lady bring out somebody, and she said the woman had a jinn. So I was questioning them, because somebody who mad and somebody who have jinn, they just have the same characteristics. Okay, because being mad is majnun. Okay, and then which means that you cover, like, you know, same with jinn. And so I asked the lady, I said, did you ever go to the hospital, you have a mental problem? No. So when I started to read, right, the woman who brought the woman started to kick up. The woman who brought the woman, you know, started to kick up. So she had the jinn, and the woman had a mental problem. You know, so these things are there, and they could call how much takfir they want. We shouldn't be bothered with some of these people on these things, right? And even some brothers who live in Saudi Arabia, they told me that some of them, they saw the police, something that is used. You see, anytime people commit crime, the fellas just come and catch you anyhow you go, right? So there's the science, and it's there, and up to us to find out about it, and we don't throw away the baby with the bathwater, because one time the Prophet asked a Jew woman who used to do ruqya, tell me what you used to say, and when he tell her, when she told him, she said, okay, you could use that. Even some of the companions who used to use incantations when they were non-Muslims, and the Prophet says, say to me, and if there was no shirk, he allow it. So we don't take on these people after. And this Ummah is full of people who call people, put people outside the deen of Islam. So I personally don't take them on. Okay. Remember,
Sheikh,
I spoke with you all last week. Yes, that was Khawarij. Yeah, go on.
Sheikh Bodhi is still alive, or
Yeah,
he has transitioned?
No, he's still here. He functions with a masjid in downtown London, African masjid there. Mostly a lot of those Africans go here. Teach there and stuff. Pray there sometimes. Yeah, so these things, whether these things are there, and I think every community should have somebody who has some kind of expertise in these things. Because we suffer from a lot of spiritual and mental, a lot of different things we suffer from that we don't himself know. Okay, we have all kind of different psychosis, problem, mental, physical, spiritual, and not because you are not affected, it don't mean it don't exist. There are people who have spiritual problems, and there are some people who have mental problems from childhood, how they grow up, how they were treated, what they were exposed to, and sometimes what they were exposed to put them in the hands of the jinns. So it have all these things, actually, all these different things. And Islam must cater for the total human being. Economics, culture, politics, religion, and spirituality. In Islam, have the antidote for all these things. Okay, Islam has the antidote for all these things. But we don't access it. Because sometimes we don't know, but we can find out. Any other questions? Okay. So remember Islam is
Sheikh,
okay?
Sheikh, just anything like
Islam is to worship Allah. What you say? Yeah, Islam is to
no,
worship
go
Allah
ahead.
as if you can see him, or know that he's seeing you. And there's a famous hadith. The Prophet Islam said that you do extra worship, extra ibadah, extra thing, so much so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes your legs that you walk and the hands that you move with everything. Allah, you come here, you're like you move with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And anybody fight you, Allah fights for you. So there are people in our time and before our time called walis, friends of Allah, and there are people like that, and it's mentioned in the hadith. So I don't know what people are talking about. Okay? I don't know what people are talking about. I remember Abu Huraira caught a jinn more than once. And the jinn tell him if he use Ayatul Kursi, it will chase jinns away. Right? So this is not just Kula Uzwe, Falak and Kula Uzwe Binas. Even the time of the Rasul Islam, so we shall try and find all these things because we suffer, and sometimes people suffer so much, and sometimes they affect us so much that we don't even know. Sometimes we think our thoughts is our thoughts. Okay, there could be suggestions from Shaitan. I don't say that to mean to be paranoid, but that is why you say Bismillah before you eat. Bismillah, you go in the door, Bismillah, you close the door. When you come home, Bismillah, Auzubillah Minash Shaitanir Rajim, you go in the door. Seek refuge. Even when you're reading the Quran, Allah says seek refuge. Why? Because certain thoughts will come in your mind reading the Quran, and those thoughts could be coming from the Shaitan. That way, see some people create sect. They read in the Quran and they get all kind of strange ideas, right? And tell you what different verse mean this and they get strange ideas. You have to remember, Shaitan said what? He will attack us not in the rum shop. Shaitan said he will attack us not in the whole house. Shaitan said he will attack us not in the party. He said he will attack us on Siratal Mustaqim. That's what Shaitan is. Shaitan is on the straight path waiting for you. Those people in the rum shop, you have them under control. Those people in the parties, you have them under control. Right? They wine whole night drunk and he cannot waste time with them. You understand? But in your little space trying to pray and trying to be good and really trying to control your nerves and thing and that will be coming for you. So don't think he with Shaitan hanging out in the pub. Nah. He hanging out in the zik circles, he's hanging out in the study circles, he's hanging out in the masjid, he's hanging out, in those areas where he could get at you. Okay, so I just want to stress this because we don't pay attention to it enough, as Muslims. And it exists. So if Shaitan make a threat thousands of years ago, and he tell Allah, he say, I will wait for them on the street, on the path. So, and then Allah says, treat Shaitan as an enemy. Allah said, okay, forget me. Allah says, treat Shaitan as an enemy. If you feel like spooky, all right. Allah now says, treat Shaitan as an enemy. And he and his tribe see you from where you don't see them. Right? So how we just treat an enemy? We don't hug up your enemy until like that. How we just treat an enemy? Anytime you see that man boy, it's war between me and that man boy. When you see your enemy, right? As in this time you're calling ups. So Shaitan is our ups. Right? When you see me and I see him, shots fired. Okay? Not I go and hug him up. And say, hey, what going on, boy? What going on, girl? Are you going to drink something? No. Then how we treat your enemy. Okay, and so Allah says these things about, Allah tell us what to expect from before. So you must think about that, where your test coming from. Okay, where your test coming from, and then you are trying to address it. And thing about tests is that when you have a test, right, and you pass one weakness, okay, you pass something that you getting test with. Once you pass that, you meet the next one that you didn't say no was there. When you pass that one, you meet the next one that you didn't say no was there. You know, that the kind of experience I saw in life. You know that like some people might have problems smoking. When they over the smoking, they realize there's some other thing else to deal with, and that, they go like that. That is how life is. Because is a purification. Allah said, "Qad aflaha man tazakka." Successful is he who purifies the soul. Okay, so it's not just okay. We take Christian other than 1 degree, right? We have Iman, that is our next degree. Then we have Ihsan, that is our next degree. Okay, where you're supposed to reach a state where your soul commanding, telling you to do good. It's called Nafsul Amara. The soul that tells you what to do good. There's levels in the deen. It have these things, but we just say la ilaha illallah, go on jalab and taj and kimar and walk all over the place as Muslim, and and I Muslim, and that is it. And some people, you die that way. You spend 15, 20 or 40 years, 60 years. You live like that and you just die, never tasting the sweetness of the deen. Okay? You die and never really taste the sweetness of the deen. Okay, there's a sweetness. And remember yesterday I was telling you that some people get tired. You cannot print 5 times a day and you find you still have problems, nothing happening. And after a time, some people get fed up, they might kill themselves. Some people get fed up, they might go astray. Some people get fed up, they might go into drugs, after being Muslim for years. Why? Because they just marching on one spot. Okay, you pray 5 times a day. That's a ritual. But within that ritual, there's something called khushu, where while you're praying it, your heart comes at rest. Okay, where the salat is beyond just the rakat, and there's a certain attraction, a certain satisfaction when you pray. You just say, you feel different. Okay, so all that is to say is that pay attention to the levels. Check yourself. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ said that a Muslim should not be the same every day. Every day you should learn. Every day today should be different. I mean, today is like this. Tomorrow should be different from today. So do something different every day towards yourself. Okay, so don't make all the days the same. Okay, so every day you try to do something different that help yourself. You learn 2 ayats, or you read part of the Quran, or you read a hadith. Make sure you do something different every day. And that cumulative effect, after a time, it will, it will help change you, because all these things are really about changing ourselves. Okay, successful are those who purify it, meaning the soul. Qad aflaha man tazakka. Okay, that Allah tell us that there's a certain success, and people who experience that they could give the tafsir what they mean by success. It's not monetary, right? Okay, tell you something about spiritual satisfaction, and for everybody it might be different, because there are different levels. So you can do so much extra things, where Allah becomes, the feet by your walk, and the hands that you move, and your mouth, everything. Allah just embody, These are the hadiths there. And of course, some because Abdullah ibn Wahab, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab when he came on the scene, there were really some Sufis who were really doing crap, right? But you don't throw away the baby with the bathwater, okay? And that's why Ibn Zuruk in Morocco, he purified some of the Sufis from some of the things that they did, you know? So it's a dynamism, right? Just like people married, and then they use the laws of marriage against the husband, the wife and the husband, right? So you just stop married because you have divorce. Okay, so it's the same way that he met people doing things, you know, that really had no bearing on the practice of spirituality. Okay, so, you know, this is how mankind is. We overdo, take things and we overdo. Okay, as I was telling you about the people who call themselves jihadi. You know, anytime you isolate something in Islam, right? Because what? They say Iman have 70 branches. And when the Arabs use 70, they don't mean a literal 70. It means so much. It has so much branches at Iman. And the lowest branch is to remove something harmful from the road. So, what does doing a social action, you know, like cleaning up the road or something from harmful things, had to do with belief in angels and book and prophets, you know? You see, so our understanding of faith is different. Okay, to do social work in the community is a part of Iman. Right? So our spirituality is wide. Okay, our spirituality is so wide. The lowest of it is to remove something harmful. You know, you're walking on the road, you're walking on the pavement, and it has some bottle break, and some people there studying it, you know, you push it, sweep it away. We have big stone or something, you know, you move harmful things from the path. And that is part of Iman, being a mu'min. Just imagine that. So when we say faith and belief, it's not the same thing what these people saying, you know. Because this is a social act, a physical act in the society, and it's considered to be spiritual. So, you know, and so these people who it's not special in the sense, it's something open to all of us, you know, and trying to reach that state, right, where you become beneficial to humanity. Okay, as the Prophet says, there's good in every Muslim, weak and strong. You know, but I love the strong Muslim because he can do more for Islam, right? And strength is not always physical. Okay, it has some big, strong men and the weak, and there are some weak-looking men and the strong. So, you know, that is relative. You know, so our whole concept of life and things is different. Okay, so how much time close to the break on the fast?
We have approached the time to break the fast.
All right, cool. Yeah, so tomorrow, inshallah, we travel again on Surah Jinn, inshallah. So thanks for coming and being patient, and, you know, don't be scared to ask any question. If I don't know it, I'll tell I don't know it, and I'm going to look for it. So it's not a problem. We don't know everything in life, right? So subhanakallahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Walaikum assalam.